Imagine this. It's 2001, you're 12, and you're living in Japan. You're a kid who's super cool and your parents got you not only a Game Boy Color, preferably one of those super cool lime green ones, and also likely pre-ordered the soon-to-be released Game Boy Advance, but they also got you a super awesome copy of Pokémon Crystal version. And get this, your own cell phone. Now why is that important? Because they were also cool enough to buy you this weird thing, the mobile Game Boy adapter. Now this neat little device allowed you to connect your newfangled mobile cellular phone device thing to your Game Boy Color and, for a small monthly fee, play 20 or so different titles online using a mobile phone network. Granted, it wasn't fast online as this was the early 2000s mobile internet after all, and as it was only available in Japan, you couldn't so much play with people around the world as you could play with people around Japan, but that was still neat at the time. Years before services such as the Global Trade Station in Pokemon games, Nintendo had the Pokemon Mobile System GB, which was compatible with the mobile Game Boy adapter, exclusively with Pokemon Crystal version, but only the Japanese Crystal version. Actually, this led to Crystal version itself having a few differences from its Western release, the most notable of these being the replacement of the Goldenrod City Pokemon Center with an absolute behemoth of a building called the Pokemon Communication Center, or Pokécom Center for short. I mean, come on, this place even had its own music track. Actually, now that I think about it, I think that's the only major difference between the Japanese and Western Crystal version. But also, imagine how cool it would be if Crystal version had online features over here, and I mean, America at the time, but Canada or Europe or whatever. But then again, I remember my parents not getting somewhat decent internet at home until 2004, so maybe it was a bit ahead of its time. Now what I'm about to go through is information I've gotten from secondhand sources, as the Pokemon Mobile System GB has been offline since December 2002, meaning that, as it launched in January 2001, yes, these online services barely lasted a year, and unfortunately, unlike say Phantasy Star Online, there's no fan-made service to, well, bring them back up and running. But anyways, in the Pokécom Center in Pokemon Crystal, you had the Trade Corner, which allowed you to link up over the phone and trade with other trainers throughout Japan, and the Pokemon News Machine, which along with giving monthly news updates on Pokemon events throughout Japan, also allowed a player to play various minigames, and there was also an administrative area that acts as sort of an in-game manual for the various mobile features. Events were also distributed through the Pokécom Center, such as one for the coveted GS Ball, which along with allowing you to catch Celebi in Lilacs Forest, somehow caused Ash Ketchum to go on an entire big spiel of a subplot in the Pokemon anime that ultimately never went anywhere. But anyways, back to Japanese Pokemon Crystal version. From the main menu of the game, those with a Pokemon Mobile System GB account could enter the Mobile Center. This allowed players to set up their own profile, opt in to allowing the game to send them news, and to also share their trainer data, such as their win-loss record at the Battle Tower, and even allow players to manage a contact list of other players that they'd want to frequently interact with. As for actually battling using the mobile adapter, instead of using the Pokécom Center, this instead made use of the Battle Tower, which some have speculated was added to Crystal version merely as a way to make use of these new mobile battle features, so this is not confirmed. I mean, 10-minute time battles could also be held at any Pokemon Center, but the Battle Tower essentially allowed for a ranked battle mode of sorts. Defeating enough trainers would elevate you to the rank of Room Leader, and your rank would be listed on leaderboards, and if you got to be Room Leader, then you'd be put into a special leaderboard known as the Honor Roll. Ooh, sounds like an elementary school report card, honestly. In addition, mobile battles made use of a mode in the Japanese version of Pokemon Stadium 2, which was actually the third Pokemon Stadium game and known as Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver in Japan. I've talked about this before, but this mode was known as the Mobile Stadium. While the Game Boy mobile adapter unfortunately didn't let you take your N64 online, it did let you save recordings of battles, which could then be loaded into your Nintendo 64 console to be watched in 3D. Honestly, I would have gone crazy over that as a kid. So why didn't these mobile Pokemon features catch on? Well, for one, cellular networks back then weren't nearly as expansive or reliable as they are today, and also it was fairly expensive to use. Each Pokemon trade and battle would charge you 10 yen, while using the mobile stadium feature to save battles would cost 20 yen, and registering to get the Pokemon news alone would charge you 100 yen a month. And while each of these charges are mere pennies, save for the news which is roughly $1 USD, this could add up quickly if you're particularly fond of trading over your phone or want to prove that you are the best Pokemon trainer in Japan by asserting your battling prowess. And of course, to use any of this, you'd have to first own a compatible cell phone, along with a Game Boy Color, mobile adapter, and of course, a copy of Pokemon Crystal itself. I don't think it's surprising that Pokemon Crystal's mobile online features didn't catch on, and I don't find it surprising that they were dropped from the Western releases of the game, especially as the mobile service itself was partially set up by a Japanese service provider. However, they were most definitely ahead of their time. Many gamers at that time were still shocked and impressed by the Sega Dreamcast being able to go online and play games such as Phantasy Star Online, so I'm not surprised that we didn't truly see online handheld Pokemon take hold, and honestly mobile online gaming in general become mainstream until roughly around the time of Nintendo DS and titles such as Pokemon Diamond and Pearl versions, which of course came out roughly 5 years later. But also, I think this is an incredible part of gaming history, and despite being ahead of its time and being taken offline only a year and some after its launch, the Japanese Pokemon Crystal version's online features are definitely worth remembering today.